Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Michaela Peters. Today is Christmas, which means I have off of work. I'm saying it that way because the last couple of days I've been exceptionally lazy and there's something I actually need to get done by the end of the week, and the mini fire under my butt is starting to feel warmer, meaning that I'm starting to get a little bit stressed out about what I actually need to accomplish, so maybe today I'll actually get on that. Because yesterday I was watching a video about why is Gen Z so poor, which, to be fair, I'm like cusp between millennial and Gen Z because I was born in 95. And depending on what source you look at, it's going to say the cutoff is 95 or 97. So whatever, I kind of just identify as both. But basically Gen Zers like to work on their own terms. And I'm like, yeah, so I guess it doesn't really bother me working on a holiday if that's when I have the motivation to do the thing. So there is that. The dog is currently downstairs because he was so comfy and warm in front of the fireplace and I didn't want to disturb him. And yeah, I'm trying to get done with these videos so that I can try to force myself to go running finally, because I have been laying around for the last couple days. I was kind of having an issue with I've had plantar fasciitis in my one foot, and it was starting to return with all the walking around and carrying heavy stuff I was doing in Finland before I was coming back to the US. And yeah, I've got all that crap on the floor behind me I still need to sort through, so there's that too. Yeah, so a lot going on. I am slowly but surely trying to get through all of the messages and emails and stuff that I get from people, even people I really want to talk to, so I really apologize for my delay in that, because part of it has been my mini depression with returning home, because I don't really like being here, gonna be honest, and just, it's not I can't even really blame it on jet lag, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't really get jet lag. I'm so used to flying back and forth that it doesn't happen to me. I'm gonna be very honest. I mean, sometimes a little bit, but not really. So it's more of just me trying to, let's just say, readjust emotionally. I'm gonna put it that way. That makes that's a truer statement. So yeah, I'm gonna try to go running because it's Christmas and we have off of work. Everybody in my family, we're actually going to get together at some point in the evening today. So I have that coming up. So my goals are go running, do some work, try to restore some organization to my life, and then I'm still working like normal tomorrow. And yeah, then I have some restaurant shifts coming up later. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's winter and I'm just hibernating or something. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, yeah, I don't even know how I just talk for 3 minutes about nothing, but that's cool. I guess this is my warm-up. Alright, so if you've made it this far into the video, now I'm going to start talking about why I've thought for a long time about raising children in Finland versus raising children in the US. Aside from the fact that Finland actually wants you to have a kid there, I don't feel like there's any sort of reward for having a kid in the US. Even people on the Russian side of my channel are talking about how you get this thing called maternal capital or something, where the government will start paying you a certain amount of money for each kid you have. Do you think the US does that? No, we don't need more people here. Everybody wants to come here. We have a problem with too many people living here, if anything. You got immigration, you've got people having kids, you got poor people having kids, and the system having to pay for that. There's a lot that goes on here. So I went through yesterday on the Russian side of my channel with expenses. I wonder if I should actually do that here. Sure, I'm gonna do that. I have to translate this back into English and then talk to you about it. But here, I'm gonna show it here. So this is pretty accurate. Let's say that after taxes, right? So your net income is somewhere around $3,500 a month. This is pretty accurate. I was more or less, this is about what my situation is looking like. And people on the Russian side are but even if you're a truck driver, it's yes, just because you have a 6-figure salary does not mean that you are really taking home that much money. I think that's the one thing that really needs to be understood. Okay, so yeah, and it will be cool at some point. I'll probably be making 6 figures, but right now I'm not. And that's, who knows, man, I don't even want to be here, so we'll see what goes on. Alright, so the rent is going to be around $2,000. I've been on Zillow for literally the last, since I came back to America in September, so it's really been a year and 3 months. And this 2K, getting around it, it's just not going to happen. Now, if you have a car payment for $500 a month, which I don't, thank God, because I already paid my car off in 2019 and I don't have too many issues with it yet, which is great. There's that. And then car insurance, $200 a month, more or less, yeah. Health insurance, $200 a month. That sounds right, yeah. I was talking to one friend yesterday, though, who is in a different field than me. She's a dental assistant, and she says that her health insurance is $800 a month. And I'm like, how? But then my dad was saying that could be because it's a family plan, so that makes sense, because for now I do not have a family plan. Internet is $50 a month. I thought that it was more because for my job, they actually reimburse me $80 per month for using the internet because I work from home. So sure, a telephone bill being, or mobile phone, whatever, being $100 a month, that's steep. I'm not going to say it's really that much. I'd say it's usually around 50. So there's that. I'm going to be really honest about like lighting and water and gas, which is not included in here. I don't know how much those things cost, but this is what I saw in a little Instagram reel that my mom had sent me, and that was the basis for this video. And then what's left over? $250. And we didn't even talk about food. Food is such a huge expense. So I thought that this was pretty crazy, and it's like, you know, $3,500 is about like, you know, probably like a 70 to 80K a year salary. So if you're only taking home that much, where's the rest of the money going? Of course, taxes. Of course, retirement. Of course, healthcare. Yeah, those things. So there's that. So it's just sort of like, I think that really I thought like, oh, I'm going to work in the US and like, oh, I'm going to be able to save some money. Like, yeah, if I was able to live at home longer, like that would be true. But now that that is under threat, I just don't know that this is a system I want to keep paying into, because there aren't enough redeeming things about living in the US that I actually like. So now I'm going to talk about why I think that it's better to live in Finland, or not even just live in Finland, but like to grow up in Finland. I think one of the things that's really hard is that, and I've quoted this before from one of my friends, and I'm going to quote it again. In the US, you learn from a young age how to compete with one another. In Finland, you learn from a young age how to work together. So there's also the whole thing about living to work versus working to live. And I think Americans are much more living to work. Like, you believe that your entire worth as a person is based around how much you appear to be working, right? Because people are not robots. I say this all the time. It's like, you know, I've been kind of crapping out for the last 2 days at work. Why? Well, nobody's in the office. I barely take time off of work myself. Like, I'm burnt out. And as I've always said, if you don't give yourself a break, your body will. So I'm just kind of sitting there and I'm like, eyes glazed over at the screen. I have no energy to answer messages, like, you know, the stupid ones that I get from this channel. Like, I mean, look, it's like I have a lot of people contacting me. It's really hard to keep up with it. What I'm saying is there's no like time sensitivity urgency with those, so that like it's not like a real thing to be worried about. But like, I'm not getting messaged at work. I have friends who are like, I see that you're back. Do you want to see me? This is always the hardest one, man. Because sometimes I just like don't like to tell people I came back because I have like my little introvert session going on, and then it's like people are like, oh, let's see each other, and I'm like, it's not that I don't want to see people. Like yesterday, I saw my best friend. She just had a baby, and I feel like honestly a lot better because it was so cute, like holding the baby and feeding the baby, and then like watching her swaddle the baby to put the baby to sleep. Like, it was cute, so it made me feel better. But yeah, the other thing is like my dog is not eating right now, and I think he has a broken heart. I'm not sure if anybody here has ever had a broken heart, but I have, and it's really painful. It happened to me one time because I like randomly got broken up with, and it was bad. It was like I couldn't really eat and I couldn't sleep for like 2 weeks. It was like, it actually hurt. It was very weird. So like, I have a lot of empathy for my dog. I think I know what's going on right now, because it's like his best friend, you know, who he was with his entire life, they were born together, is now dead, and he's alone in the world, and like his heart's broken, and so he doesn't really want to eat, and and then sometimes he's like a little bit weird when he's sleeping, and then he wakes up and he's a little bit uncomfortable, and then I'm trying to figure out if he's too hot or too cold. So sometimes I take off his puppy sweater. Okay, whatever. But like, what was my whole point with talking about the dog thing? I don't know. Yes, so I don't know. That was really irrelevant. Yeah, I feel like I didn't really get that great of sleep because the puppy alarm clock went off early. I was like one of the only days I could sleep, and the puppy alarm clock had to go off at 8:30, and I didn't need to be up yet by 9. Whatever. It happens. Okay, so I don't really want to teach my kid that the main purpose in life is to have money. And even if you want to try to live in America and not teach your kid that, it's going to be bombarded by messages from society telling you that to be a good person and a worthy member of society, you have to be very overachieving. You have to, like, go to great lengths to reach your goals. This is like a noble thing. And I don't think it focuses enough on like character and actually being a good person. I think that the whole, like, I had this whole long, religiosity video about Finns versus Americans versus Russians. And when I think about it from like a religious perspective, it's like people caring a lot about like looking like superficially like they're like a good person in like a like moral sense, or like, yes, a spiritual sense, but like a trying to help other people sense. But like it still feels like very kind of like underpinningly like they're doing this just to make it look like they're a better person and not because they actually care about the other person. Like, that's how I feel. It's the feeling I get. It's like a gut feeling. I can't even explain like why I feel that way. And I'm not saying that's every single person. It's just that's like it's just not an experience that I have in the US. Now, one of the other things that I actually started considering when I was around some Russian people in Tampere over the weekend was that because it's like the apples to oranges thing, like I'm American and I don't live in Finland and people don't really understand what I do, and like I'm gonna say how high up on the totem pole I am, there's probably less like jealousy. I don't know if that's true, or if people just don't sit there and compare themselves as much as in the US. It's probably more true about what's going on. Versus here, it's like it's a little bit harder for me to hide how successful I've been, or it's like people just ask you like nosier questions maybe, and I'm really bad at lying and not telling people things. So, yeah, like actually, I'm trying to decide if I want to talk about this on my channel, because this is one of the things where it's like, all right, so no, I think I will talk about this because I had a friend asking me, she was like, can you talk to me about how to buy an apartment in Finland? I have an apartment in Finland. Okay, like I own an apartment in Finland. I'm still paying it off, so this is part of why I'm like freaking out about trying to pay double rent somewhere, or double payments, whatever. But, somebody I was talking to in the US yesterday, because I was like, hey, like I've just been asking random people, like, how do you find cheaper housing than $2,000 a month? This is what I do. I just talk to everybody about everything because, my dad's like, you're indecisive. And I'm like, well, my family is religious, right? So I'm like, no, the Bible says wisdom comes through the counsel of many advisors. So I just be advised by everybody. But this friend is like, because it's like, what were you doing when you were in Finland? I was like, literally cleaning my apartment. Okay, like seeing some friends, but like literally working and cleaning my apartment. And then she's like, oh, I don't know. What was the point of the, like, just like kind of like people don't understand why I own an apartment in Finland. And like, look, like, because nobody understands how much I love Finland. Okay, that's why. Because you buy things you like, okay, especially if you want to be an investor one day. And it's like, the apartment that I have in Finland, like, I can't even explain to you because this was the thing I was explaining to her. I was like, it was like the easiest thing I ever did. It didn't even make any sense. It was like, I went online, I found it, I liked it, I looked at it, I made an offer, the offer was accepted, I got everything together, and then I owned it, okay? So, yeah, I'll make a video more in detail about this later, maybe, and, like, to supplement, it's not like it's, a butterflies, unicorns, rainbow situation. It's like I constantly need a roommate there to offset expenses. So I do have a roommate there. And then I also rent out my room to offset expenses. And I actually converted the living room. It's like a coxio, so it's like, 2 rooms. I converted the living room into a bedroom by putting a door on it. So it's pretty much like set up similarly to like finished student apartments where there is like 2 rooms. My door just opened. Okay. 2 door. That's probably a cat. It is a cat. Yeah. Anyway, so this video is getting really ranty and now we're at the 15-minute mark. Okay. So owning the apartment, it's cool. It's a lot of work. But it's like, I love it. And yeah, maybe it's like where I want to end up someday, like for real. So, because like, people are very like, ew, La Padranta, nobody wants to live there after they graduate. And I'm like, I will actually be happy to live there after I graduate. I mean, even though I'm still a PhD student, but like when everybody who I like knew leaves and then it's just me and the lake, like nothing sounds more romantic than that. Like I just love the lake. I don't know, like I love it. It's like I can just like walk out the apartment and then I can go cross country skiing or I can run around the lake. It's like this is like the thing I was telling my friend. I was like, think about where you live. If everybody you knew who lived there died, would you still want to be there? And that's how I feel about La Padranta. If everybody left, I still like it. Because my one friend who I ran into was like, soon we're all going to be gone and then you're not going to have anybody. And I'm like, and what's your point? Like, I'm supposed to be worried about that? Like, I'm not. Okay, so maybe that sounds terrible, but that's how I feel. And then I also realized that there's, like, a little daycare that's, like, right next to where I live, and I'm like, cool, the kid could go there, and it could speak Finnish. So here's another thing, is that the US is very monolingual. Yes, we do have a lot of other cultures here, but it can be hard sometimes to get people to want to speak in their own language. So Spanish is pretty easy. Like I could definitely probably have a kid in the US and like try to get them integrated into speaking Spanish because of like the number of Hispanic communities there are here. But for anything else, it would be 10 times more work. So with Finland, Finnish people speak English very well. I mean, I obviously speak English, so there's that. Finnish, and then La Padranta has Russian, which I care about, right? Not everybody in Finland, but for me. So you already have like 3 languages right there, so that's really cool. I really like the whole nature aspect of Finland, especially La Padranta, being really close to the lake, being really close to like a little woods trail. It's just, to me, it's so calm and it's so peaceful, and it's like very, understimulating, and could just be like a good, calm, peaceful experience without feeling like a lot of stress. And I don't want my kid being raised like stressed out. Like I was actually just watching something on Instagram that was talking about like high cortisol levels. I feel like I'm actually gonna like pause this because I'm afraid of the video delete. So one moment, please. The values that exist here are very pervasive, and they're not necessarily the values I want to instill in my child. I also have always wanted my child to have these cool hidden talents, like being able to ice skate from the age of 2. That one's particularly important to me for some reason. And then speaking a weird language that nobody can really speak. That's very hard. I guess one thing I'd be worried about is like how much drinking is a thing in Finland, because like I really just wonder how bad that is for a lot of things in society. I'm not anti-drinking by any means. It's just it maybe it just seems like it's a little bit in excess there in a way that I don't quite see that in the US. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, I think it's just sort of like just more of I want my kid to have a chiller life than I had. I feel like there was a lot of like unnecessary stress. I feel like there's still a lot of unnecessary stress. Like I'm just like sick of living in a society where everybody's like stressed out about money all the time, and like we're the most affluent country in the world. Like we have like the highest GDP, and people cannot stay out of debt. Like I can't even tell you how many people I talk to are like in credit card debt, and I'm like, why? Like you don't have the money, don't spend the money on the thing. But as I had shown this little setup of like this is what things cost, it's like I'm showing you like a good salary. This is not like a McDonald's worker salary. And so it's kind of thing I really respect about Finland is you could work at McDonald's, you could work at the grocery store, and there's just something to me so satisfying about knowing that I can use those services and not feel like the person who is serving me is being exploited and like doesn't have money to put food on the table or like have a place to live, because the government basically like helps handle all that stuff. So I guess maybe what I feel like is like Finland is just much more of a humane society to live in. And like, don't get me wrong, I feel like there are still a lot of social problems in Finland, but it's just, to me, the value of trying to teach a kid to not be obsessed with money. I do think to an extent everybody in the world is fascinated by the pursuit of wealth, or the concept of wealth itself. But I just feel like in the US, it maybe feels more pertinent because unfortunately it is like more of a need to become wealthy. And I'm going to use in air quotes because like it sounds ridiculous to me that being wealthy is what is necessary in order to just like live the bare minimum life that you need to stay out of debt. And, debt not really being a thing as much in Europe, and it's just like not as materialistic there. I don't know. Like it's just calm. Like, I feel like so at peace when I talk to people. It doesn't feel like people, like in the US, it kind of always feels like people have like this hidden agenda or this ulterior motive, or like they're secretly judging you. Like, I don't feel that when I'm talking to people in Finland. Like, I just don't. I feel like people are interested and they're curious, but there's not like this whole like assessing my worth as a person based on how I answer certain questions, or like telling me that my decisions are incorrect and I'm like almost 30. Like, who cares at this point? I'm like old man. I'm like an adult. I was thinking about that my dog's been alive for like 17 years, and I'm like, I know, like, I went through so much with him. It's crazy. He's still downstairs. I miss him. Okay. So anyway, why I want my kid to be raised in Finland, because I think that, I asked this question to my parents. For some reason, so there's a song in Russian called Sansara, which is like about, basically it's like the cycle of life, that you give birth to kids and you expect those kids to be better than you. But I've kind of always wondered, like, why did anybody in my family expect that I was supposed to come out better than them? It's like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree thing. So I just think it's like, maybe it feels like in the US, a lot of the expectations that parents have that they feel like they couldn't meet in their lives get transferred onto their kids, and I think this is very dangerous. And maybe this exists in Finland, maybe I'm just not aware of it, but it just feels like people in Finland are like way chiller and more accepting, and just they mind their own business. That's what it is. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like nobody's like trying to like snoop into your life. Like, they'll ask you questions, but they're not asking like prying questions you don't feel comfortable answering. Like, I did not really feel comfortable answering this question about like, did you buy the apartment in Finland? Like, why? I don't really want to go around telling people what I'm buying and what I'm not buying. That's my own business. And be honest. I mean, like I said, I'm talking about it here because I actually am thinking about trying to make a video. But I also just feel like my situation was kind of different with that because of, like, how it went down. But actually, I can maybe do some research and still put together a video on that, because I did watch videos on that before I went through this process, and that did help me. So maybe I'll, like, talk more about my experience. I actually think that'd be a great video, and I think it'd be interesting. So I'm going to keep that in mind. But yeah, I want the expectations to be low. Maybe I just feel like there were too many expectations placed upon me, and then I feel like I kind of hit this breaking point, and then in the last few years I've been struggling, and I had my whole psychiatric break thing, which I thought was interesting. The one person who posted, like, when you get to a place where you finally feel safe, you can kind of, like, let it down and then, like, freak out, and I think it was good for me, even though it was painful. That's kind of, growth comes through times of trial, not times of ease. So yeah, and they also say, like, raising a kid in Finland is like parenting on easy mode. So there's that. So yeah, these are just all the things where I just feel like it could be beneficial to have a kid in Finland, because I just think it would be easier. And I think I could raise them the way I want to raise them, and not the way that society is forcing me to put these weird, stupid, expectational values onto them to make them competitive little monsters. Because, to be honest, that's how I feel about myself sometimes. Yeah, so I'm gonna end it there. And I gotta go spend time with family, I want to go running, and yeah, that's everything for today. Yeah, so until my next video, bye!